Hello, my little friends. Welcome to our Harry Potter Mosaic workshop. Today we're going to be creating this mosaic project that incorporates some of the themes from the Harry Potter books. I wanted to just go over what these different sections meant in case you haven't read the books. If you haven't read the books, hopefully you can find some time to do it because they're really wonderful and it's a great adventure. All right, so in the L section of our plaque, we are going to be creating Harry Potter. These are his glasses. This is his lightning bolt scar. In the O section, we have 9 3/4. So 9 3/4 is actually the platform at the King's Cross station in London. It's between platforms 9 and 10. And it is where the Hogwarts school students board the Hogwarts Express to get to school. The V part of our project is the Deathly Hallows. So this is actually 3 magical objects. In the book, it said that these 3 magical objects were created by death. And if somebody held all 3 of these objects at the same time, they would be considered invincible. This is the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and this triangle symbolizes the Cloak of Invisibility. In the E section of our project, we're going to be creating a little owl that we're going to call Hedwig, which is Harry's owl in the books. All right, so these are our sections. When you unpack your project from the bag, it's gonna have these lines drawn on there, which is good. Also, what you're gonna wanna set your table with is a placemat. So just go ahead and cover your workspace just to make sure that we protect our workspace. We are gonna be using acrylic paint today. It can be difficult to remove from fabrics and surfaces, so it's always good to go ahead and just cover your workspace. You are also going to need some water and some paper towels. From your bag, you are also going to unpack your Sharpie marker, this little blue brush, just this little square guy, and your paints. So today we have white, we're gonna call this gold. We have this 2 kinds of red. This is a brown and a black. So if you haven't set your table yet, you can just pause this for a second and make sure that you have all of these items available to you for the first step of the project. We also are gonna recommend that you are wearing either art clothes or a smock today, since we are using acrylic paint, as we mentioned. And just a heads up that you are welcome to pause, rewind, or fast forward this video at any time if you need to. All right, so if your workspace is not set up, go ahead and pause and take a second to do that. If your workspace is set up, we're gonna go ahead and get started on step number 1. So step number 1 is going to require us to trace over the lines that we have on our project. All right, so you're gonna uncap your marker and we're gonna go through and trace some of these lines. And the reason we're gonna do that is we are gonna paint over them and we wanna make sure that we can still see them. And this makes it nice and easy to see where those lines were. We don't have to worry that we're not gonna be able to trace them. We're actually gonna be going back with our marker and tracing over some of these lines at the end. But for now, we just wanna make sure that we're able to see them when we start painting in the event that we paint over them. take a second to peek and make sure that you have all of these black lines outlined on your project. All right, so we're gonna start over here with Harry, and we're gonna start by filling in his hair with this dark brown color. You don't need to mix this. You can use this color right out of the container. We're gonna keep it nice and dark for this hair section. You can take your time filling this in. As we do each step of the project, we want to make sure that we're spreading our paint out reasonably thin. And there's a couple reasons for this. The first one is we want our colors to dry pretty evenly, and by spreading it out, we ensure that there's a nice thin, even coat of paint in all the different parts. And the second reason is we want it to dry fast so that we can move to the next step of our project. And if we let it get too thick, it's gonna take a long time to dry. So once you have it on there, I like to go back and just smooth it out and spread it out. And even sometimes I'll dry my brush on my paper towel and then go back in and just remove any excess paint that may be on there. Okay, I'm happy with that. I wanna just tell you, since we're done with the first color, it's gonna be important that in between each step, you really rinse your brush out well. If you're not able to do that in the water on your table, you can always just make sure you get the permission of an adult, but you can always take it to the sink and wash your brush out. If you take a break, you definitely wanna get this brush rinsed out. If the paint dries inside the brush, it can be really hard to get out, and you're gonna need to use this brush over and over again, so make sure that you're getting it nice and dry and clean in between colors. Okay, for the next step, we're gonna paint inside of Harry's face, and we're gonna actually be mixing together two colors to do that. So the two colors we're gonna be using are whites. I'm just taking a little scoop and putting it onto this plate. You may have a paper plate for mixing in your kit. You may also have a little card. So whatever you have in there, you're gonna just put a little paint on there. And then I'm taking a little bit of this gold color and I'm gonna mix this together. I'm looking to get like a skin color, like a tan. So it's mostly white with just a little bit of that gold. Let's put this a little closer for you. Pretty happy with that color. So I'm gonna go ahead and start filling in Harry's face. I'm not gonna paint right over this lightning bolt. I didn't outline it. Hopefully you did. I messed up. Just be careful in this section where you just painted the hair. We don't want our colors to mix together. All right, so this color is gonna go down to this curved line here. That curved line is the beginning of Harry's scarf. So if you haven't read the books, the wizards are in a school all together, and there's 4 different houses in the school, and each house has different colors that represent the house. Harry lives in Gryffindor house, and their school colors are gold and red. So that's what we're gonna be using to decorate Harry's scarf, his colors that he has in Gryffindor. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we're gonna wash our brush out. We're gonna put our paper plate to the side for now, and we're gonna start filling in the scarf. So we wanna do every other stripe. So I'm gonna do red, 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 gold, gold, gold. I'm gonna start with gold first since I already have that color out. It's the same color we just used for Harry Potter's skin. We mixed it together with white. You probably have a smaller brush in your kit, and if you need to swap out and use your smaller brush at any time, feel free to do that when we get into these little sections. Gold, gold, gold. The other houses in Harry Potter, let's see. There's Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin. And each house has different colors. I wonder if you know what colors the other houses are. One more gold section. All right, excellent. We're gonna put our gold paint to the side for a minute and rinse out our brush. Okay, so in your kit, you have 2 shades of red. There's sort of a brighter one, and then one that's a little more like a maroon. This maroon dark red we're gonna use for the bricks on the other side. We wanna use this brighter red for Harry's scarf. So we're gonna fill in any of the sections that aren't painted yet. So it should be every other section. Okay, scarf is looking good. We're actually completely done with this bright red color. So if you want to recap this, you can put this to the side and either send it back in your kit or save it for a project on another day. All right, we're gonna give this a couple minutes to dry. And while we're doing that, we're gonna work on a different letter. So next we're gonna move down to the V, to this Deathly Hallows. And for this section, we're gonna be painting just gray. So you are going to take a little scoop of white. I would actually maybe take 2 scoops of white. And you're gonna mix into your white just a dot of black. You'd be surprised how little of the darker color you need to color your white. So I always start with just a little bit. It's easy to make it darker, but it's hard to make it whiter or lighter. So once it gets too dark, it's really hard to go back. So add the black a little at a time until you get a gray that you like. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my Deathly Hallows. This is an easy one because it's all gonna be one color. Perfect. Our Deathly Hallows symbols all filled in. We're gonna rinse this gray out of our brush and move on to the next section. All right, next we're gonna be working on platform 9 3/4. And for now, we're gonna fill this whole section in with the brick color. Ooh, I see a place where I missed a little line. If that happens to you, obviously, you can always just grab your marker and fill it in. Okay, so we're gonna be filling in the number 9 and then 3 and the 4 with this brick red color.
And then we'll be going back and putting those brick lines in. So this section was very cool.
Once you have this brick section filled in, you're gonna be done with your brick color, and you can go ahead and cap that and move it to the side as well. All right, rinsing my brush. And we're gonna fill in the bird next, the owl. We're gonna give this section a second to dry. We're gonna be filling this in all white, and you can paint right over these lines. You'll still be able to see them, but we are gonna go around the eye and the beak just so that we don't have to wait so long for them to dry to paint the rest of the details there. Okay, so our bird is filled in. We're gonna rinse our brush one more time. And really quick, I'm gonna go back to this gold color, and we're just gonna fill in the outer eye section of our bird. If you need to switch to a smaller brush, that's totally fine. I usually stand my brush up on it perpendicular to my project like this. And that'll give you a pretty thin line when you're standing it up perpendicular in this way. You can also fill in the beak with this color. Oh, see, even Julie makes mistakes sometimes. Let's talk about mistakes since I made one. If you go out of the lines or you do something that you don't like with acrylic paint, it's really easy to fix. The easiest thing to do is either take a little bit of water and wash your mistake a little bit and dry it off. Or once it dries, you can just go back with the original color and fix it. They're really easy to cover. It's a very easy to use paint, so don't get stressed out if you get out of the lines. Not a big deal, not a problem. Good as new. Okay. The next thing we're gonna do is fill in the edge around our platform 9 3/4, and this edge is gonna be black. I do recommend really taking your time and going nice and slow. You don't wanna get black on the bird that you just painted, and you wanna try not to get the black on the 9 3/4 symbol. So just take your time and slowly work your way around this circle. This looks perfect. I'm gonna wash my brush out. And we're gonna work on our bird one more time. This is the last step before we let our project dry for a little while. So we're gonna just put some accents along these wing marks, and we're gonna do that with the dark brown that we used for Harry's hair. So I'm gonna use my brush perpendicular to my project so that the skinny part of this brush is what's touching the project. So not this big flat wide area, but this skinny small area. If this is not comfortable for you, absolutely grab a smaller brush. So I'm just gonna take a little brown on my brush, and I'm gonna just really gently kind of sweep in over these wing lines. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just trying to give the illusion of some feathers. So I'm dipping into my brown. Let me see if you guys can see this. I'm dipping into my brown, and then I'm tapping off a little bit. I don't want a lot of paint on here. I just want to put a little sort of swoop here. It's almost like a shadow. And I'm gonna do the same thing in the section where these V's are. I'm not even dragging my brush. I'm just tapping. I'm almost using it like a stamp and just wiggling it back and forth and stamping in the areas where those black lines are. I almost tried to wash my brush inside that brown paint. That was fun. Okay, so we're done for the moment with our painting portion. Once all of these sections are dry, we're gonna go back in with our Sharpie and just trace back over all of our black lines that are here. In order to do that, this paint needs to be really dry. So we're gonna take a break for a sec and we're gonna clean up our workspace. We are gonna store any extra paints that we have. You're gonna take them and you're just gonna cap them. Make sure the caps are on nice and tight. If you need help from a grown-up, call a grown-up in your house to help you. And once all of your paints are capped, you can put them to the side, and you can also get rid of your water, your paintbrush, and your paper towel. And then meet me back here. Okay, everybody, we're back. Hopefully our project's nice and dry. We need to outline all of the black lines. We're gonna retrace with our Sharpie. If there's sections that are still wet, what's gonna happen is the Sharpie marker is not gonna write there, and you're gonna get acrylic paint on your Sharpie marker, and then it's gonna be hard to use. So take a second and really look hard at your piece. If you see any areas that look shiny, the reason they look shiny is because they're not dry yet. So sometimes I'll just take my hand and just test to see and make sure that everything is dry. Once you feel confident that everything is dry, you're gonna take your Sharpie marker and you're gonna go back and trace over all the black lines that we traced in the beginning. I missed my lightning bolt in the beginning. Gonna get it now. Harry Potter's cute glasses. I feel like this is the most iconic sort of Harry Potter situation right here. Glasses and that little that lightning bolt scar. If you didn't paint over your lines and they're still really visible, you can just skip it. I painted over most of mine, so I'm gonna give it a good coat over here. Oops, got a little white on there. I guess my bird isn't totally dry. That's okay. Once I'm done, I'll go back and touch that up with black. Kind of like it when things go wrong when I'm teaching. That way, chances are it's going to go wrong for someone else, and then you can see how easy it is to fix a mistake if you make one. All right, our bricks look good. Get my bird's eye outlined. And this time we're gonna fill in this inside part of the bird's eye. The pupil, maybe? Fill this part in black. If you want to give any details to these wing sections, I usually just give a little bit of a line on top of them, sometimes a little dot, just to give it a little more energy. And then same thing on these lines. Just a little accent wherever you think it's needed. Okay, with the exception of my little white line over here, I think we are good to go. I'm actually just gonna touch that up really quick. That way it has a chance to dry. Okay, fabulous. So we're gonna start tiling our project, and these are the supplies that you'll need on your table for this part of the project. You're gonna need your containers of tiles. For this project, we have 4 colors, and you are also going to need your container of glue and your popsicle stick. We're gonna start up top with Harry's hair. So we're gonna need our brown tiles for starters. Okay, so let's talk about arranging and gluing our tiles for a second. As we move forward, we're gonna be tiling different parts of this project. We always recommend laying your tiles out a little bit before you start gluing them. And the reason for that is the glue dries pretty fast. So as you're putting your tiles on, if you're gluing as you go, maybe they're gonna dry before you have the chance to say, hey, you know what? I don't think I like that tile there. I think I'd rather have that tile down here. Or I wish I turned that tile. It's gonna be hard to make those kinds of choices once your pieces are down on top of your project. It's easier to do before you put the glue on there. So that's why we sort of recommend arranging the tiles a little bit before you start gluing them, just to make sure that you have a really good idea about how you're gonna want your tiles to look. When it's time to glue the tiles, you're gonna use your popsicle stick, and you can either put the glue directly onto your project and stick your tiles on, or you can glue each tile individually by putting a little glue on the back and then sticking it down onto your project. Either way, the glue's gonna dry totally clear, so if it spreads out from underneath your tile, it's not a big deal. You're not gonna be able to see that once it is dry. It is. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing my tiles. Take a minute to arrange your tiles. You can pause if you need to. And once you have them where you like, you can go ahead and glue them in place as well. Okay, so I have Harry's hair covered, and I'm happy with the way it looks. I'm gonna give these tiles a few minutes to dry. Make sure they're stuck. And we are gonna work on our Deathly Hallows V, which is down here. So we're gonna be tiling this section with these little white squares, and we're gonna tile all around the edge. If at any time you wanna mix it up and use your tiles in different places, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. You can always do your own thing if you have an idea that's different than mine. So I'm gonna go ahead and start gluing these in place. You can pour them out if you want and put them onto the table. Sometimes that helps me. Then I don't have to be digging through the cup. Sometimes we also trim the tiles, big pieces down into smaller pieces. And if we do that, sometimes the tiles could be a little sharp. So it is good to pour them out onto the table and not be digging around in the cup. So take a minute to arrange your white tiles on your Deathly Hallows symbol. And when you like the way they look, you are welcome to go ahead and glue those in place. Okay, our tiles are on for our Deathly Hallows symbol. If you can't squeeze a tile over here on the edge, if you run out of room, you can always just wiggle your tiles a little bit. Hopefully you've planned it out before and you don't have an awkward space at the end, but I would say either push them a little closer together if you think you can fit one more, or I would recommend spacing them out a little bit if you think that you don't have enough room to squeeze another one in. All right, perfect. We're gonna do the same thing in the 9 3/4 section. We're gonna use these little square tiles to outline this symbol. So again, I would recommend pouring them out onto the table, planning it out, and then once you're satisfied with your design, you can go ahead and glue them in place. Okay, my section for platform 9 3/4 is also complete. And the last section we're gonna work on is our owl. So you have a cup of tiles that has all these assorted white tiles. We have some circles, there's some squares, and you're gonna use these however you want to decorate your owl. You can put as many or as few of these tiles onto your project as you want. Sorry, I'm gonna move them up a bit so you can see them. So wherever you feel like they are gonna look nice, you can just add them in. And once you're happy with the placement of your tiles, you can glue them up. Hedwig looks great, and we are gonna give our mosaic some time to dry. You wanna leave it nice and flat on your table until probably tomorrow. I would say about 24 hours, just to make sure this glue really dries to hold your tiles in place. You can move it to another surface, but I would leave it flat until tomorrow, and then you can stand it up and display it. I hope you had the best time creating this Harry Potter inspired mosaic with us today, and we will see all of you soon. Bye-bye.